Hey everyone, Andy here from the Dustbowlaudio.com, and just going to have a quick chat today about the quality that we need in the kit that we use for making music. Now, if you browse the internet, you will find anywhere that beginners hang out, lots and lots of questions that are riddled with anxiety about, is my stuff good enough? It's very rarely about, are my skills good enough? It's almost always about, is the stuff that I've got to do this, is my kit, is my equipment good enough? And there are two main answer groups that go with this. One says, yeah, as long as you've got something that works, you can make great quality recordings. Just go on and practice, practice, practice. And there's the other side that says, no, absolutely not. Unless you're going out and spending, thousands of dollars, thousands of pounds on your kit, you cannot make world-class recordings without world-class kit. And when I used to read this stuff, I used to think, yeah, but I can't quite believe either of those points. And I think there's a kind of a line that you can follow for how much you need to spend and what kind of quality you actually need. So there are things that you use in making music that make noise. You get singers, they make noise. You get drummers, they make noise. Drum kits, guitars, actual instruments, things that produce the sounds. And you're never ever going to get better than the sound that comes out of the instrument that the musician creates. So that's a given that you need good quality stuff at some point in the chain to create good quality sounds. Now, after that, you've got a couple of different basic ways that you capture stuff. One is that you use something that's clean and clear. You might use a microphone that basically catches the sound of whatever you put into it. And as long as that microphone does its job, it's not hissy or poppy or crackly, it doesn't break down, and it gets pretty close to the sound that's going into it, as long as you put it in the right place, as long as your recording engineer chops are up to scratch, then that microphone will do the job for you. And you can pick up mics that do that. I'm not even going to go into brands and models because it changes every 5 minutes. But if you've got 100, maybe $150, 100, 150 pounds, you can get something that will do the job for that. Now, the other side of the microphone argument is you get the funky stuff, the mojo stuff, the imperfect stuff that happens to work. You'll always find that there's a microphone you put on a particular singer that just lights up their voice, but you put it on something else and it sounds... SM57 is a classic example. It's the dynamic mic that's probably been used on more rock and roll guitar recordings than just about any and every other. And, the SM57 is so far from perfect, but you put it in front of a Marshall cab and it kind of sounds rock and roll. If you don't have a 57, can you get that sound? Yeah, of course you can. You can EQ it in later on, but it makes life so quick and so easy if you can just stick the mic that's got the sound built into it on your source and bang, off you go. The downside is if you want something that doesn't sound like an SM57, you're not going to get it out of that 57. Now, after we get into our microphone, we get a couple of things that need to just work. Stands need to just work. They need to stay where you put them, be rigid, not fall over. Cables need to not crackle or pop if someone happens to nudge one with a toe. And then you get into one of the most popular, do I need to upgrade? Do I need to spend loads of money on this bits of kit on the market, which is the microphone preamp. Now, I went through a spell with mic preamps some years ago, and I thought, I'd really like to get something that's of great quality so I never have to think about it again. And I did the old beg, steal or borrow. Well, I did the old beg or borrow routine. And I tried a whole bunch of different stuff. And what I found was that the differences that I thought would be like this ended up being like this. The night and day differences that people talk about online, I thought were, 2, 3, 5% at the absolute outset, whereas I was expecting absolutely enormous differences. So I kind of came to the conclusion there that the stuff that I've got is amply good enough for what I need. And seriously, you can go out and, again, with a couple $100 or pounds these days, you can buy an audio interface that's got a preamp or maybe a couple of preamps built into it, and that's got a set of converters which will be amply good enough for anything that you need to do. Converters, lots of myths about converters. They're another classic night and day. I bought a new set of converters. It's a night and day difference. And yeah, they sound different. And yet really great converters sound really, really nice. I'm just never quite convinced of how much that's worth once you get it stuck down, mixed into mixed down to the eventual 2 tracks of a song. There's a lot of great recordings that have been made out there with 8-in-a-box Behringer converters that cost tens of dollars per channel, and are made with the cheapest components that money can buy. And they do a job. Nobody, I don't believe, has ever taken an album back, ever sent a CD back to Amazon and said, I don't want this because I don't like the converters that the rhythm guitar was recorded through. So, little perspective to keep there. Once you get through the hardware, presuming that you're working in a DAW, in a digital audio workstation, do I now need to go out and spend loads of money on plugins? And again, the answer is almost certainly not. If you've got any DAW software which came out the last 5 years or so, you'll probably find that the gap between it and the real premium plugins out there is so small in terms of sound. A lot of it is honestly down to marketing and or convenience or just plain habit. I use a lot of Waves plugins simply because I've used them forever. I kind of know if I want that sound, I'm going to go out and get it from that particular plugin, so I don't have to trawl through 30 compressors to find what I'm after. I know that's what I like. I like the fact that they have an undo button, because I get awfully confused when I make a mistake or when I do something and don't like it and suddenly find what I have to remember what I had before instead of just clicking a button to take me back. But that said, I use IK Multimedia plugins. If I've got a drum bus and I'm after a certain kind of sound on there, the 1176, the black face that comes out of there, I know the sound of it. It just does what I need it to do. But there's something very similar built into Cubase 7.5, just comes in the plugin folder, and with a few different settings and a little bit more work, perhaps because I'm not that used to it, I can get the same kind of effect out of there. And I think this is true. I mean, I use Cubase, but whether you use Cubase or what have we got, Pro Tools or Logic or Sonar or Reaper or Studio One or any of the other DAWs that I've missed out from the list there, you will most likely find out that what you get in the box will do anything that you need to do. Really don't worry about it. Once you start coming out of the other side of the box, you get into the whole realms of monitoring. And let's face it, every decision that you make come mix time is a result of what you hear through your D2A converters and then through either your monitor speakers or your headphones or whatever else you mix on. So how good do these have to be? Well, first of all, let's think about, there's the great myth about the high-end speaker system that is absolutely rule flat from 10 hertz to 100,000 hertz. Well, maybe it is. Maybe someone has made one of those somewhere, and when it was tested in an anechoic chamber, it was absolutely spot on flat. But by the time you get it home and you put it in your studio with a real floor and a real ceiling and real walls, and you sitting in the middle of it with an ear on either side of a head that causes lots of filtering and a chair that you sit on and a desk and a PC monitor, nah, you're not getting flat response anywhere. So do not worry about that myth. What you need to worry about, I think, is this. Depending on the kind of music that you need, you get enough bottom end extension. If you're mixing classic rock, the bottom end of a traditional 4-string bass is coming in the octave around about 40 hertz. If you are mixing absolute bowel-rupturing dance music, you may want to go significantly lower than that. Is the upper mid-range clear enough that you can hear rattles and harshness in instruments, that you can pick up sibilance in there? And is it perhaps not quite so harsh that you can't bear to listen to it without wanting to stab yourself in the ear after 20 minutes? The realistic questions that go in there. When you're mixing bass guitar, can you hear the difference between a kick drum and a bass guitar? If a bass is playing in the bottom octave, do you get discrete notes that you can hear, or do some of those notes just sort of turn into one smudge sound, so you can tell there's some energy being spent down there, but you can't really tell what it is? Those are the things that you need to judge. You find that within a manufacturer's range, you tend to get small through to big, cheap through to expensive monitors, and you get family ranges. So if you get a set of, if you look at, say, Tannoy Reveals, the small 4-inch monitor sounds just like the bigger ones, but less so. It's got less bottom end, less volume to it, but you'd hear them and say, yeah, that is that family. And similarly with Neumann, similarly with Focal, similarly with KRKs, Adams, Genelecs. Find something that you like the sound of that actually does work for you. And and make sure that when you make changes, if you make a couple of dB change in a mid-range, that you can hear it come through. You will get used to an awful lot of things. You learn monitors in your room by playing music through, by listening to music. But every now and again, you'll find something that just fights you back so hard that it's just not worth bothering with. I used to have a set of near fields. Everything that I mixed sounded great. Everything sounded big and thick and muscular and chewy until I got it out of my mix room. And when I listened on other systems, it was all thin and weak because these things had such a boosted, such a hyped lower mid-range to them that with my level of experience at the time, I couldn't get through that. I couldn't hear through it and say, that's the monitor, not the sound. You shouldn't have to work that hard. If monitors do that, walk away. There's always something else in the price range to go for. It's really worthwhile having someone with you who maybe knows their way around the kind of music that you work on as a second pair of ears, as a sanity check when you're going through monitors, because it is so easy to get caught up on something that's big and booming and that's absolutely smacking you in the face in the demo room, and to have someone who's got a little bit less skin in the game saying, yeah, but hang on a minute, think about this, just listen to that, can you hear this? Make yourself a checklist before you go to buy monitors. Can I hear splashy cymbals? Can I tell the difference between a WAV file and a low bitrate MP3? If you can't, then either it doesn't matter because your ears are not up to it, or the monitors are no good for you. Are cymbals splashy? Can I hear bottom end? Is there any part of the frequency response, if I step through a sine wave's frequency sweep, is there any part of this that suddenly leaps out and sort of sounds completely out of balance with me with the frequencies around it? The other thing to bear in mind is that monitors have to fit your room. Getting yourself a pair of twin 10-inch driver barefoots or something like that is going to be absolutely, fantastic, beautiful, stunning speakers. But if you're in a 6 foot by 6 foot box room, you're just going to be buried in standing waves in there. And, maybe something with a 4 or 5 inch low frequency driver would be more suitable to what you're after. But as long as you're fairly sensible about the room that you're going to be working in, get something that you can hear the bottom end of what you need, that doesn't hurt your ears, and that you can hear changes made to. That does the job. The only job that your monitors have to do is enable you to make mixes that you can take out of the room that sound good elsewhere. Now, that's not to say that great quality monitors are not a pleasure to work with, and it's not to say that they may not enable you to do a job a little bit quicker. But until you're at the point where you really are running into limitations of your kit, and or where time is money, where it's worth paying the extra to get something that's quicker in use, again, good enough is good enough. So pretty much across the board, does quality matter? Yes, it does. Is quality better? Is better quality better? Of course it is. Absolutely it is. Great quality gear sounds great. It's a pleasure to use. And there's a grin factor that comes out of knowing that you've got really good stuff that you just get pleasure from. We all enjoy the hero buy, the thing that we know, hey, maybe I shouldn't really go out and spend a couple of $1,000 on a microphone, but, I've done it and it's world class. And oddly enough, my recordings still sound exactly the same as they did when I used an MT1A. That's a bit of a crash to the ground, I can tell you. But, yes, great quality gear. It's nice to have. And if money's no object, or if your money doesn't have to work for you, go out, fill your boots, flex your credit card and enjoy it. If you are on a budget, if you've got an amount each week or each month that you can put aside, you still need to pay rent, you still need to eat, you still need to put clothes on your back and shoes on your feet. Don't go without that stuff just for the sake of getting a $600 mic if you've already got a $200 mic, which will do the job for you. Learn to use it. And in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months' time, when you're sitting back and saying, I can't do this, I'm sure I've got the skills and I just can't get to where I want to go, and I'm convinced that my limitation is down to kit. After you've sanity checked that, then it's the time to get your credit card out and go out and enjoy the process. Anyway, that's maybe a little bit of food for thought. Until the next time, look after yourselves. This is Andy with the Dustbowl and I will see you in the next video.